The term Halo Killer is kind of funny if you think about it. After its release in 2001, the Halo series took the world by storm. Halo Combat Evolved was a groundbreaking first-person shooter that revolutionized the genre on consoles. Its seamless blend of an engaging single-player campaign and robust multiplayer modes set a new standard for game design. Followed by the even better Halos 2 and 3, in the early 2000s, Halo was a trailblazer, influencing countless games that followed and cementing its legacy in gaming history. Despite Halo's impact, beloved nature, and massive success, some saw it as a challenge. Some saw it as a hurdle to cross, a monster to slay. Some wanted to make a Halo Killer. Now, this term Halo Killer was first coined to describe games that were hyped as potential rivals to the Halo franchise, aiming to surpass its popularity and redefine the FPS genre. However, while many games attempted to claim this title, few, if any, could match the combination of storytelling, gameplay innovation, and cultural impact Halo brought to the gaming world. So that begs the question, is a real Halo Killer even possible? Let's break it down, starting with a look at some games commonly associated with this Halo Killer title. And I'm sure the very first game you thought of was Killzone. The Killzone franchise is a series of first-person shooters developed by Guerrilla Games and published by Sony. An exclusive to the PlayStation, Killzone was intended to be the ultimate Halo killer, or more accurately, a title that could rival Microsoft's Halo. The original Killzone released for PS2 in 2004. The core concept of Killzone was a story set in the 24th century, where humanity has colonized several planets. The primary conflict takes place on the planet of Vecta, a planet colonized by the Interplanetary Strategic Alliance, or the ISA. The Helghast, once exiled from Vecta, have established their own society on the harsh planet of Helgen, and have developed a militaristic and xenophobic culture. The Helghast, led by the tyrannical leader, Emperor Visari, launched a massive invasion of Vecta to reclaim it. The game's storyline follows the ISA's effort to repel the Helghast's invasion through the eyes of 4 playable characters: Jan Templar, an ISA captain; Luger, an ISA shadow marshal; Rico Velasquez, a heavy weapons specialist; and Haka, a half Helghast and half human. Killzone 2 was released in 2009 and follows the events after the ISA have repelled the Helghast from Vecta and prepared their own all-out invasion of Helgen to capture Emperor Visari and bring an end to the Helghast threat. Taking the reins of Sergeant Tom Sevchenko, players are thrust into the intense and hostile environments of Helgen. In 2011, Killzone 3 released and begins after the death of Visari as the ISA forces on Helgen find themselves stranded and vastly outnumbered. Playing once again as Sev, players navigate through the war-torn landscape, facing overwhelming odds, and in the end, the ISA prevail and destroy Helgen, making a decisive turn in the conflict. And the final release in the Killzone series came in 2013 with Killzone Shadowfall. Set 30 years after the events of Killzone 3, following the destruction of Helgen, the ISA allowed several Helghast to settle on Vecta, leading to a tense coexistence within a divided city, separated by a massive security wall. The story begins after a devastating terrorist attack on the wall reignites hostilities between the ISA and the Helghast. You play as Lucas Kellen, a shadow marshal tasked with maintaining peace while uncovering the truth behind the escalating conflict. And this would be the last mainline Killzone title. Now, yes, there are handheld titles, but we'll be skipping those for all games covered today. Anyway, what started as an ambitious and creative project designed to best Halo turned into really nothing. The major critique of the franchise was the weak narrative and underdeveloped characters. Most Killzone games were criticized for having a lackluster and cliched storyline. The overarching plot of the ISA versus Helghast conflict was seen as generic and lacking depth. Many characters, including protagonists and antagonists, were viewed as underdeveloped and one-dimensional. This often made it difficult for players to connect with the characters or care deeply about their fates. Killzone was meant to be the Halo killer, but the way it looked, the way it played, and the way it felt was less like a Halo killer and more like a Call of Duty clone with the World War II sci-fi coat of paint. Killzone was also the epitome of the brown and gray shooter cliche of the early 2000s. What made Halo stand out amongst waves of brown and gray was its color. Even for the limited graphical capabilities of the original Xbox, Halo Combat Evolved was still gorgeous. Imagine the first time you played Halo CE and stepped out of that lifeboat and looked at the ring. It was awe-inspiring. It was alien. What the hell was this thing? It's a ring in space, and I'm looking at blue skies amongst a Pacific Northwest landscape. Now imagine all that, but with no saturation. It's the pop of color that gives Halo its unique art style, amongst many other things, but we'll cover those later. Master Chief is bright green, aliens are blue and purple, and the only thing that's brown and gray was the Marines and the Flood, kind of. But Killzone didn't fail just because of poor color choices. It failed because of underdeveloped ideas. Nothing about the plot makes me want to know more. It's lacking the intrigue, the mystery of it all. The idea of the unknown was a major selling point that captured fans. What the hell is the Halo? What the hell is the Covenant? What the hell is the Flood? There are no what the hell questions in Killzone besides what the hell were they thinking with that last game? Well, yes, the rule of cool does exist in Halo. The only difference is that it's backed up with substance. Halo is a series known for its grand, cinematic set pieces and large-scale battles. These moments are designed to be visually and emotionally impactful, even if they sometimes stretch the boundaries of believability or game mechanics. The Halo universe includes vast, ancient alien structures like the Halo rings and the Ark, which are both mysterious and awe-inspiring. These elements are designed to evoke senses of wonder and grandeur, even if their existence or functionality might raise questions. If you're trying to make a Halo killer, you need to top that sense of awe, that sense of wonder. Killzone is just space World War II with dope Jin-Ro Kerberos-looking soldiers. In theory, the Halo killer is there. It's just muddied underneath poor aesthetics and story choices. The next game that is, interestingly enough, rarely brought up during this Halo killer discussion is the Resistance series, because it technically is a Halo killer. Mostly because the most basic way to break down the Halo killer trope is to say it's a sci-fi console-exclusive FPS. Developed by Insomniac Games, Resistance consists of several games set in an alternative history where an alien species known as the Chimera invaded Earth during the 1950s. Released in 2006, Resistance: Fall of Man begins in 1951 when the Chimera invaded Europe. Players assume the role of Nathan Hale, a US Army Ranger who becomes infected with the Chimera virus, gaining enhanced abilities. The game follows his efforts to fight against the Chimera and uncover their origins. 2008's Resistance 2 picks up shortly after the events of the first game, and continues to follow Nathan Hale, now a member of the Special Research Projects Administration, or SRPA. The Chimera have launched a full-scale invasion of the United States, and Hale is part of a multinational task force consisting of super soldiers like himself, aiming to stem the tide of the Chimera assault. And the last game in the series, Resistance 3, released in 2011. Picking up 4 years after the events of Resistance 2, the Chimera invasion has devastated Earth, with humanity pushed to the brink of extinction. The United States has become a desolate landscape overrun by the Chimera. Unlike the previous games where players controlled Nathan Hale, Resistance 3 follows the story of Joseph Capelli, who was forced to kill Hale at the end of Resistance 2 to prevent him from succumbing to the Chimera virus. The series ends with Capelli leading an assault on a Chimera terraformer, destroying it and returning Earth's temperature back to normal, as well as sealing the wormhole the Chimera had been using to invade Earth, and ending the Chimera threat once and for all. These games received relatively high review scores for as little as they're talked about in modern days. These scores were even higher on average when compared to Killzone. The main issue with this series was that it's kind of all over the place. Resistance 1 was basically an alien-themed World War II shooter. Resistance 2 was, for the most part, a super soldier set-piece action flick, and Resistance 3 was a slow, character-driven tale of survival. They didn't stick with one theme for all 3 games. With each game having narrative whiplash, there isn't one thing for fans to grasp onto. Look at Halo. All 3 original games are about the Halo in some way, shape, or form. Halo CE is set entirely on a Halo. Halo 2's latter half is on a new Halo, while the first half is about the aftermath of the first one. And Halo 3 is about stopping them all from firing. They all center around the core concept of a Halo. And that Halo concept includes the Forerunners and the Covenant, and all of those concepts are essentially one. You can't have the Covenant without the Forerunner, and you can't have the Forerunner without the Halo. This is also why the new series of games have been failing. There isn't one singular concept carried through the 343 trilogy. But for the original Halos, it's all one concept. Resistance lacks that conceptual through line. And not to harp on colors again, because yes, this is another brown and gray shooter, but they actually somewhat improve the art design in Resistance 2 and somewhat in 3. The main thing I want to talk about is the execution of this story. The concept of a post-World War II alien invasion is extremely unique and very compelling, yet it didn't exactly meet its mark. Like I said, the storyline of the Resistance franchise was often criticized for being disjointed and lacking depth. The narrative didn't always live up to its potential, leaving players less invested in the overarching plot. Not only this, but the main characters, particularly with Nathan Hale in the first 2 games, was often seen as underdeveloped. Players found it hard to connect emotionally with the protagonists, which diminished the impact of key story moments. So you can have a good concept for a story, you just have to stick with it. Imagine if Halo went from a game about stopping the Covenant from activating the ring to a completely different narrative in each sequel, without any cohesive thread linking them together. Like if Halo 2 is about Master Chief and a squad of Spartans on Earth with nothing to do with the ring. Then in 3 you play as Sergeant Johnson looking for his family and you just also happen to stop the Covenant along the way. It would lack a through line. And this inconsistency would likely confuse players and dilute the overall impact of the series. Consistency in themes, narrative, and character development is crucial for maintaining player engagement and investment. Moving on to perhaps the most infamous example of the Halo killer trope is Haze. Developed by Free Radical and published by Ubisoft, like the other games I just listed, Haze was meant to be the PlayStation's answer to Halo. Released in 2008, Haze is set in the year 2048, where powerful multinational corporations have significant control over global affairs. The primary corporation in the game is Mantle Global Industries, which produces a drug called Nectar. This drug is used to enhance the abilities of soldiers, creating an elite fighting force known as the Mantle Troopers. The protagonist of this game, Shane, is a new recruit in Mantle's army, initially believing in the righteousness of Mantle's mission. However, as the story progresses, Shane begins to experience glitches and side effects from the nectar. He starts to see the true horrors of war, which the drug has been masking. Disturbing visions and hallucinations occur, revealing the brutality and inhumanity of Mantle's actions. He then defects from Mantle, joining the rebels, and the game ends with him continuing to fight to expose Mantle's corruption and to help the rebels achieve their goals. Out of all the games we've covered so far, Haze has the lowest Metacritic score, coming in at a whopping 55. Despite the story, which we'll get into a bit, Haze encountered several significant issues that contributed to its mixed reception and overall disappointment among games and critics. But overall, the graphics were lacking, the voice acting was stale, the gameplay was generic, and the central gameplay mechanic involving Nectar, while interesting in concept, was not well executed. The use of Nectar, which was supposed to add a strategic element to the gameplay, felt underdeveloped and did not significantly enhance the player's experience. If it was like the Black Mirror episode Men Against Fire, which, spoilers for an 8-year-old episode, it's about soldiers with neural implants that alter their perception of enemy combatants, making them appear mutated and grotesque so they're easier to kill. Men Against Fire explores themes of dehumanization, manipulation, and ethics of warfare, all themes that were lacking in Haze. This brings me to my issue with Haze. It's the same issue with Resistance and Killzone. The three things that all those Halo killers have in common is a vision not fully realized. We can go on for days about gameplay, graphics, and art style, but the one thing that sets Halo apart from the rest is vision. Now I can hear you already writing in the comments that Halo 1 through 3 wasn't a fully realized story when it was first releasing. Well, yes and no. Halo, at the end of the day, was a series about Master Chief stopping the Covenant. That is the most basic way to explain Halo. And with the first 3 games and spin-offs, that was what it was all about. Killzone was close to having a through-line goal, but like Resistance, in the second game, things changed. You kill Visari in Killzone 2, and Hale succumbs to the virus and is killed in Resistance 2. Those two things should have been the through-line. Killzone should have been about stopping Visari in order to stop the Helghast, and Resistance should have been about resisting the effects of the Chimera virus in order to beat them. Like, imagine how shit it would be if Star Wars killed the big bad in the second movie of a When you have a disconnected narrative, when you don't have an end goal, the series goes nowhere. While yes, if you break down Killzone, Resistance, and Haze the same way I did for Halo, Killzone is about stopping the Helghast, Resistance is about stopping the Chimera, and Haze is about stopping Mantle. But what Halo does differently is that Master Chief is stopping the Covenant. Who's doing it in Killzone or Resistance? The only reason I remember Haze as protagonist is because we have the same name. But other than that, there's nothing defining about them. Killzone, you're just a generic soldier, and the only playable character that gets continued across 2 of the 4 games is Sev. Resistance, you're an infected super soldier with a personality like sandpaper who gets killed in the second game for someone who's more interesting. In Haze, you're an addict.
Jesus, Harold,
Master Chief doesn't talk much. He's a super soldier. He gets the job done. To circumvent this somewhat blank slate character archetype, we have Cortana. She does the talking. She fills the player in on things we need to know. And she's interesting. You remember her. You remember Chief. Together, they are basically one. But all of the things I critiqued about these 3 games put together makes Halo what it is. Halo is known for its immersive sci-fi universe with futuristic environments, alien worlds, and advanced technology. Master Chief, Cortana, and other memorable characters, along with the overarching narrative of the Halo series, has played a crucial role in shaping its identity. It also wouldn't be Halo without its art style. Halo's distinct art design, characterized by its cassette futuristic-looking technology and alien landscapes, has contributed to its visual identity. Not to mention the gameplay loop and the downright breathtaking music. If you don't have all of those things be consistent and solid, you don't have a Halo killer. So back to the question at hand, is a Halo killer even possible? Yes, 100% it is. The main thing you have to do, first of all, is drop the idea of being a Halo killer and embrace the idea of being a Halo spiritual successor. That term refers to a work typically in the realms of entertainment that is not a direct sequel or continuation of a previous work, but shares a strong thematic or stylistic connection to it. For example, BioShock is a spiritual successor to System Shock, as Undertale is to Earthbound and Stardew Valley is to Harvest Moon. If you want to be a Halo killer, you need to take common themes or concepts and apply it to a different setting and story. It's that simple. Going even further, if you want to make an even more faithful Halo spiritual successor, take inspiration from what inspired Halo in the first place. Read Larry Niven's Ringworld and the Moat in God's Eye, or Robert A. Heinlein's Starship Troopers. Learn about various mythological and religious themes, particularly in the depiction of ancient artifacts, religious zealotry, and prophetic visions. Go watch James Cameron's Aliens and take armor inspiration from Gundam. Watch, read, and study all of these Halo inspirations and find your own. Remix it, and boom! You don't have something that can kill Halo, you have something that could rival it.